No, because the idea, I think, of trusting code is, I don't think it works like that. I think, code comes from people, so we need to know who's creating the code for what reasons. We can trust code, but not unthinkingly, not automatically. I don't think it's the only solution. I think Apple is generally a reasonable company, but I am troubled by the fact they haven't been paying their taxes, and now they are. But I'm much more sympathetic to the Apple business model. I think it's a beginning. I think the fact that Vestager is challenging Google on the antitrust front is healthy. I think she needs to rethink antitrust law when she's investigating Amazon. I think forcing Facebook to be accountable as a media company is also really good, but it's a beginning. You can't just sort of apply negative liberty to these companies. You need alternatives, you need innovation, particularly in Europe. You need new business models, new companies, new platforms, new technologies that empower consumers more, that provide better, fairer, more transparent services with new technologies perhaps like blockchain. But regulation on its own doesn't work. It needs to go hand in hand with innovation, consumer power, and citizen engagement, all the things I talk about in my book. It's too easy to fall into the trap of thinking, well, the solution is regulation. The solution is Queen Margaret will come along, or Saint Margaret will come along and save us. That's as absurd as believing that the free market is sacred. I think we've misunderstood the so-called digital native. I think that people like Don Tapscott thought that digital natives, the people who've grown up in the digital world, would be religiously attached to the digital world, but I think they're actually going to be the most critical, and that they're already rediscovering vinyl, they're rediscovering handwriting, they're the ones who physically want to meet. So I think that the revenge of analog, if you like, will come through younger people. I think it's my generation that got digital wrong, that over-embraced it and became sort of converted to it in an almost religious sense. I think people who grow up with digital are the ones who are going to be the most skeptical. They're the ones, for example, it's the younger kids, it's adolescents, it's teenagers, it's people in their 20s who are fleeing Facebook. It's become uncool. It's clear that it's watching people all the time. It's young people who have decided that they want to pay for their media. They pay for Spotify because they don't want to be watched all the time. So I'm very hopeful that young people will fix a lot of the problems of the early digital revolution. I think they'll know how to do with it. Look, this question of addiction again has come up many times in our history. We've dealt with it with gambling, we've dealt with it with alcohol, we've dealt with it with fast food. That doesn't mean we've always dealt with it successfully. We've dealt with it with tobacco. Everybody knows now that smoking is bad for you. Everyone knows that overeating fast food is bad for you. Everyone knows that carbonated drinks are bad for you. Everyone knows that an addiction to gambling is bad, or an addiction to alcohol. This thing will balance itself out. The problem, though, with digital addiction is that the people who are most vulnerable are the ones who are least educated and who are least economically advantaged. So for my children and for the kids of my friends, of my sort of upper middle class world, there's no issue of digital innovation, digital addiction. These kids will look at their iPhones all day, but they'll go to school, they'll do well, they'll go to college. It's not an issue. The problem is when you have nothing else, when you have no role models, when you have nothing else to do, then you're addicted. And I think that in your speech, the kinds of behavior, the sort of outrageous, absurd, addictive behavior you see online, I think that will increasingly become a feature of an underclass, of a digital underclass, who will feast, to use a word rather sort of satirically or paradoxically, and sadly, who will feast on this kind of content because it's free. The internet offers many things. It offers, like the world itself, it offers very high quality, curated information. The websites of places like the New York Times and the Washington Post, you have to pay for those. Those have paywalls. The free stuff is increasingly trashy, increasingly addictive, and like fast food, like tobacco, like alcohol, will tend to take advantage of people who don't have the education, the economic means, or the defenses to cope with this. So this particularly concerns me, I think, in the way in which the digital revolution is spreading around the world. You know, the next couple of billion people to come online will come on in Africa, Asia and Latin America, and really the people talk now about the developing world, the poorer world, the non-urban world. These are the people, particularly the kids, who are most vulnerable, I think, to digital addiction.